Well, welcome everybody to Inside Career Technical Education. I am the host of this program, Ann Baldwin. As you can see today, I am flying solo. Kind of. I've got a great guest here, so I guess I'm not really technically solo. We've got Paul Peterson with us. And Paul, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
I have a note here because you and I spoke before we actually record the podcast, and my note is just let Paul talk. Because I just loved
Yeah.
our conversation, and I love where you came from and where you're at today. And that's really what we want to share with our viewers today is, kind of what happened and how anybody really with the right mindset can make it in today's world, especially when it comes to the skilled trades. And that's what we want to talk to you about. So let's kind of back up a little bit. So out
Mhm.
of high school, what were you going to do? What did you do?
I I went to Newtown High. I graduated in 2003, and I came out of school with every intention of going to college and majoring in secondary education chemistry. I wanted to be a chemistry teacher.
Wow.
Um, and so I went to Western Connecticut State University, enrolled, and I wasn't the greatest high school student, so I had to do some courses to get in, but I did get in. Um, and I started immediately when I started taking the classes during the semester, the first semester, it wasn't for me. I wasn't really, I was more of a worker during high school. I didn't focus as much on my school as I probably should have, but that was because I was working. I was helping a family business, and my attention was drawn elsewhere. So that continued on into WestCon, and I just didn't have the focus that I really
Well,
should have had.
how did that go over with your parents? Because that's a lot of money.
So it was money. I was paying for it.
Mm.
They helped me a little bit, but but I had to support myself, and going to work and trying to pay for college and right out of high school, it's not a task, and I didn't have the greatest attention span. So I quickly realized that the 4-year program, it just wasn't for me. I was more of a trade guy. I was a technical person. I've always had a technical mindset, and so I started to kind of research ideas, and I looked at plumbing, and then I looked at electrical, and while this was happening, I was fortunate. A family friend who actually was coaching my brother's football team at the time, my younger brother, had talked to my father and mentioned, "Hey, where are you? What's your other son doing?" And he's like, "Oh, he's kind of thinking maybe electrical. The school wasn't, the college setting wasn't really for him. So he's looking around, he's trying to find schools, and he was like, huh, electrical." So as it turned out, he owned a very prominent company that was doing remanufacturing of critical power equipment, and they were starting a service division. And he said, "You know what? Why don't I meet him? Why don't I talk to him? And maybe I can, give him an opportunity if he's willing to, go through the proper channels for the coursework and the training, and he could maybe have a good career." So I ended up switching gears. I was looking at another school for electrical, and then I ended up going to Porter and Chester specifically because you guys had an electronics program,
Mm-hmm.
which was more suited to the critical power type of UPS systems and battery backup systems that I was going to be working on. So we looked at the course outline. I talked to some of his engineers, and they said, "Yeah, that's the route you want to go. Take that class, and then when you get through it, if you do well, he will present me with an opportunity to come and work my way into the field." I worked part-time at the company, going to school, working 3 jobs, and trying to support myself, and then when I got into the company, I very quickly advanced, and now today, fast forward a little bit, 14 years of working in the field. I was a senior sales engineer running a sales team internally, decided sales really wasn't for me. And so I went back out into the operations field for critical power. And now I'm a senior director of operations running 3 of the largest data centers in the state
Wow.
for
Congratulations.
one of thank you. So the path, if I go back, and I've seen the person that got me into this industry, The gentleman I talked to, remember when I was 16, sitting there looking at him like I don't, he's telling me, he's shooting out numbers to me about what I can make in the field as an engineer and this and that, and it felt like a dream. I wasn't going to give up that opportunity. I was going to take it and run with it. And when I meet him now, I see him as a colleague now at trade shows, and he's actually come to me for business and to network with other people.
Wow.
Because
You talk about
I sit on a board and yep.
Talk about coming full circle, right?
Yeah.
And that's all it takes sometimes is someone to plant that seed. Whether it's a high school counselor, whether it's a family friend, whether it's somebody that's already out there in the skilled trades that's actually doing it and making a great living, because there is a huge need. I mean, if you haven't seen all over the news, that's what it's all about. The skilled trades are just in desperate need of folks, in these skilled trades. So, Paul, you're not talking about a situation that's any different for a lot of our viewers out there. Is what's next. You tried the college thing, and it
Yep.
didn't fit because you're more of a hands-on learner, like you said. So what was it about the Porter and Chester program where they've got the technology, they've got the online programs, and then it doesn't stop there, right? Once you get in with the company, they continue to educate you on what
Yes.
they need. So talk a little bit
Yep.
about the learning never stops.
Yes. So 100%. So first off, when you're given an opportunity like that, and I'm a firm believer, obviously I was given an opportunity. Now, he didn't give me a job. He gave me an opportunity for a job. So I had to work part-time on the HVAC side, rebuilding condensate pumps, and then I had to build my way up to show that I could do the electrical portion of what I needed to do. And then when they found that my schooling was acceptable, I did everything I needed to do. They then moved me over to the electronics side where I was working on critical power infrastructure. And I met my mentor, who is my mentor to this day, who's a brilliant engineer. And I was sitting there reading schematics, reading manuals, and then following everything they were doing with circuit board analysis and all kinds of really complex issues that were way over my head. But the more I sat there, the more I worked with them, and they guided me, and I learned. I absorbed. My second year in the field, I was engineer of the year. I did
Wow.
over 400 startups on the GE division of equipment that we sold. I was the head of GE by 19 years old. And
Unbelievable.
so I took it and I ran with it. And that's the
Yep.
thing. Like you can't, you got to go in there with the mindset of soak it up, absorb it. If you're given an opportunity to be around people like I was around, these are industry experts. And now I can proudly say that I'm an industry expert, and I work with these guys all the time as colleagues.
Right.
So and I'm able to now talk to students and engage with them and tell them, listen, this is I remember sitting where you're sitting. I know the feeling of, oh God, I didn't do that great in high school. I don't really want to go to college. What do I do now? And that's a scary feeling, especially when you got to support yourself if you don't have a lot of financial support. So the big thing I will say is network, talk to people. If you get a chance to sit with somebody and have a conversation about your career, don't be shy, like engage with them. And they will, a lot of times, a lot of professionals and guys I've worked with, people in the field, in the industry that I've worked with, will have the same story. They came out of school, they went to a lot of the guys are ex-military because there's really not a lot of training programs out there for this type of stuff.
Right. So there's a lot that goes into this, and we got to give a special shout out to JLL in Norwalk, right, where you're the senior director of operations in charge of those data centers. So, I mean, you're really, truly a success story, Paul, and I'm glad that we let you talk about that. And thank you so much for being so candid, and really sharing with us, your decision-making process and how, you feel like you failed at some point, but look at you now. I mean, you really are an inspiration, and I hope you're an inspiration to those people that are watching this podcast, because there are opportunities out there. I mean, the programs are not that long when you think about it and the scope of life. So I'm hoping that you've inspired somebody to, check out the website, porterchester.edu, and see what the future could hold if you just open your mind to new opportunities, right?
For sure.
All
For
right.
sure. Yep.
Paul, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Anytime.
And thank you for
Thank you.
tuning in to this edition of Inside Career Technical Education.